All right. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that very much. It's very good to see everybody today. My name is James Gregg, and I know there are many people on the call that I don't know or have not seen in either a virtual Zendo or physical Zendo, but a few of you who I have, so I'm very glad to see everybody. I don't personally get a chance to practice in Sangha as much as I would like with a day job and the kids and everything, so I'm very, very pleased to be here with everybody today in this group environment. It always reminds me of a story in one of the early Buddhist texts where Ananda said to the Buddha that spiritual friendship is half the practice. And the Buddha corrected him and said, actually, it's the entirety of the practice. It's all of it. So very important for us to be here together and share our collective wisdom, which is what I would like to do today. I'm going to say just a few things about my practice, and then what I'd really like to do is have an open discussion. I think we'll just leave it open rather than do breakout rooms. Hopefully it won't get too cacophonous and crazy to do it that way, but I'd really be interested to hear what all of you do in your practice. So I will apologize in advance for I was telling my group in the breakout room that I'm fighting a little bit of a sinus congestion issue, so it's hit and miss whether my sinuses decide to cooperate today or if they're going to close up on me entirely and say, you don't get to say your M's and N's today. So, and I guess that actually works. So far, so good. I can say the letter N. All right, we're good. So I also want to thank Domyo for the opportunity to speak to everybody today. So just for those of you who don't know me, just a real brief history. I've been with Bright Way Zen for about a year and a half, I think it was. I first walked into a just sitting. I believe Bruce and Mark were probably there, and maybe Jim was there too. And so it was nice to see some of those faces. My very first visit to the Zendo. Prior to, and I took Jukai last May as well. Prior to coming to Bright Way, I practiced with no rank Zendo under Rinzan Pachovnik Osho in the Rinzai Zen tradition. Prior to that, I spent some time at Portland Friends of the Dhamma, also here in Portland, practicing in the Theravada Thai Forest tradition of Ajahn Chah. Before that, for a couple of decades in my adult life, didn't really have a spiritual practice. As a child, my dad was actually an Assemblies of God minister. So very evangelical upbringing. He left the ministry when I was about 11, and we started attending a conservative Baptist church at that time. So early on, kind of very evangelical mindset. So when I went away to college at age 17, I pretty much ditched the whole thing and had nothing for many years until I found this practice. And so like some of you, I'm sure, those of you who are also fellow converts, if you will, to Buddhism, I know very few people in the United States who were born into it, but like some of you, I came to practice in a time of crisis, time of transformation, a lot of personal self-introspection, a period of time where I was really kind of tearing everything down and looking at it to say what works and what doesn't, what's healthy and what's not, what's beneficial to myself and others, and what's harmful to myself and others. And really trying to rebuild some semblance of self, if you will, that worked, better than maybe things that I had tried in the past. So when I came across Dogen's phrase, I believe it's in Fukan Zazengi. I always get all the Dogen stuff mixed up. The idea that we should take the backward step that turns the light around, that illuminates the self. That's a very, very key teaching for me, because I really feel like I was taking a backward step of sorts without even knowing what I was doing when I came to the practice. So having come to the practice in that frame of mind, I really feel a strong obligation to bring the practice to bear on everyday life. Otherwise, I would kind of feel like I was wasting it. I was wasting my time and wasting effort. I don't want to be one of those people that their spiritual practice is over here, like, well, I sit zazen and I chant and I do all that, and then go back to daily life and kind of forget all of it and not bring any of it to bear on how I actually comport myself with my coworkers and my family, my wife and my kids, or my extended family. So I've encountered a lot of that in the past with the upbringing, and especially in the evangelical side, and then some of the family and friends over the years, that I definitely saw good examples of that, where it's like, well, I go to church on Sunday, and every other day of the week I'm a total sinner, So I didn't want to fall into that trap. So I really, for me personally, I really take the practice seriously as an element of my everyday life. So some of you may know in addition to my day job teaching, I'm also a professional musician, have been for quite a while. And so my approach to this practice is kind of like, I like to equate it to musical practice to a degree. So lately I'm a trumpet player by training, but I also play piano, and I'm actually working on a new album. And so I've been practicing piano a lot, because piano is the dominant instrument, and I write songs, and I would practice every day. And so I look at it like, okay, I'm sitting down at the piano to practice, and I play, and I made a mistake. Okay, back up, look at it. What do I need to do differently? How do I need to approach this? Okay, try it again. Keep doing it again. Another mistake. Let's back up, try it again. And then finally, until I get that muscle memory and mental memory down to where I can actually do it. And all of it in preparation, in my case at least, for going into a recording studio and needing to play it perfectly, because I'm paying the dude $85 an hour to be there, So it's very important that I get it right. So I kind of equate this practice to that. Like, I'm sitting at my piano, and I'm practicing, and then practicing, and then practicing, and practicing, so that I can go into the studio and do it right. And so I look at Zazen and chanting and bowing and Sangha practice and all that as practicing to practice the practice, if that makes sense, right? Practicing to be practicing the practice in real practice. Go back a couple levels there. But for me, it's like, okay, I'm sitting here, Zazen, I'm chanting and bowing, and I'm, watching thoughts as they come and go, and, seeing where I'm stuck, seeing where I'm not stuck. And then I hopefully can step off the cushion and go into daily life and keep that in mind. Like, oh yeah, I tend to get stuck here. I have these negative thoughts, I have these positive thoughts. So how can I go into daily life and avoid that type of aversion and that type of desire, the two of the three poisons, right? How can I go into daily life and stay balanced with those, like I try to stay balanced with them on the cushion? So to that end, bringing the practice into daily life, I was very, very excited when I first started practicing at Brightway to see Domyo's 9 fields of Zen practice, and particularly the practice of Nyoho under skillful action. And so for those of you who have done the 9 fields practice are very familiar with this, but I just want to read the description to everybody in the event that maybe you haven't seen it. This is available on the website, by the way. I don't know exactly where, but if you look at 9 fields, you'll find it there. Nyoho is acting in accord with the Dharma in everyday activities. Nyoho means in accord with Nyo, the Dharma, Ho. In Zen, Nyoho practice refers specifically to the ways we act in accord with the Dharma in every aspect of our lives. There is no activity too mundane to do with care, and nothing we encounter is unworthy of our attention and respect. Zen asks us to be ordained into our lives, quote unquote, completely and utterly embracing who and what and where we are, giving up all regret, resentment, and comparison, and seeing our path of practice as sacred work. We cultivate gratitude, respect, and appreciation, and vow to live by choice instead of on autopilot. So, to me, it's very clear. It's like, okay, how can I, when I'm engaged in my everyday life, how can I bring these ideas to bear? How can I bring big mind to bear? I'm trying to cultivate big mind when I'm sitting on the cushion in Zazen posture. But how can I bring that big mind into talking to my wife and playing with my kids and doing the dishes and doing the laundry and scooping the cat box and all that type of thing? Okay. So I carry around my own little toolkit of techniques, if you will, little tools that I want to share. And then I'd really love to hear what's in your toolkit so that maybe I can add, I hear something like, oh, that sounds great. I can add that to mine as well. And then hopefully everybody can benefit from hearing everybody else's tools that are in their toolkit. So for me, there are 2 foundational texts that kind of form the basis of my toolkit. well, 3 actually, if you count Domyo's 9 fields in that description of Nyoho. But 2 texts that I've come across in my practice that really were profoundly impactful and things that I can actually carry around up here with me in even the most mundane of situations. The first is one of the writings in this book, The Gateless Barrier, also known as the Wumen Guan or the Mumon Kon. This particular one from Zenke Shibayama, they use this very frequently in the Rinzai tradition, which is where I first came across it, but obviously it's a very applicable to our life too. So the one that really stuck out to me that I want to just share with you briefly is case 19 of the Mumen Kon, called Ordinary Mind is Tao, or Ordinary Mind is the Way. And so I'll just read the koan to you really briefly. Master Joshu once asked Master Nansen, "What is Tao? What is the way?" Nansen answered, "Ordinary mind is the way. Ordinary mind is Tao." Joshu said, "Then should we direct ourselves towards it or not?" Nansen said, "If you try to direct yourself towards it, you go away from it." Joshu continued, "If we do not try, how can we know that it is the way? How can we know that it is the Tao?" Nansen replied, "The way does not belong to knowing or to not knowing. Knowing is illusion, not knowing is blankness. If you really attain to Tao of no doubt, it is like the great void, so vast and boundless. How then can there be right and wrong in the Tao?" At these words, Joshu was suddenly enlightened. And then the other text that I really like, and then I'm going to encapsulate how those affect my practice. The other text I really like is this one here, the Verses on Faith Mind, also known as the Sin Sin Ming. I've got Thomas Cleary's translation here of Sengchan's The Third Zen Patriarch, his famous poem. And I love, like, this is my desert island book. If I had to be stranded on a desert island with only one text, this would be it right here. Very, very small, as you can see, very thin, relatively short poem, but it encapsulates the entirety of the practice. And it's the first 2 quatrains that I carry with me. And actually, I love so much that I actually end up reciting these first 2 lines to my kids when they're really, they're demanding and want something, like, I want some ice cream. They get this one when they say that. The great way is not difficult for those not attached to preferences. When neither love nor hate arises, all is clear and undisguised. Separate by the smallest amount, however, and you are as far from it as heaven is from earth. If you wish to know the truth, hold to no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. And so for me, those 2 texts really get to this practice of Nyoho. They really support this idea of bringing the practice into everyday life. It's like, what is the way? Like we approach these with these big, grand, spiritual, transcendental thoughts and desires and everything, like, what is this magnificent, ethereal, eternal, universal way of all things? It's just this. There's nothing to it. It's just your everyday life, But that's not all there is to it. It's not just your everyday life. It's how you approach your everyday life. And so, so if everyday life is the way, my mundane everyday washing dishes, playing with the kids, whatever, sweeping the floor, if that's the way, is that it? Well, no. It also takes approaching the way, approaching everyday life with a mind of equanimity, trying to put away the discriminating mind, trying to stop the picking and choosing, trying to not set up like against dislike, as the Sin Sin Ming says. And so if I can approach my everyday activities, day in and day out, every hour of the day, with this idea of not being attached to preferences, and when the bad things come, thank you for the lesson you're teaching me, bad thing, I'm not going to try to push you away. And when the good things come, thank you for the lesson you're teaching me, good things. I appreciate you. I have gratitude for you, but I know you're not going to stick around forever. To approach all of this in and out, up and down, day in and day out with that that mind of balance right in the middle, that's very, very profound to me. So those two texts together kind of form that continuity, for me at least, of everyday life is the way, and if I can approach it with not being attached to preferences, if I can approach it with an equanimous mind that doesn't set up like and dislike, that's where I'm really going to be practicing. That's the true practice for me. So I've got a list of a couple of different things that I want to share with you. And so just to kind of reiterate what I'm talking about here, that I think it's really important to learn how to, like, probably a clear example that everybody can relate to. I have to load the dishwasher, unload the dishwasher, and then load the dishwasher, and then I got to scoop the cat box, and then I got to, got my little chores. But I'd really rather be watching this new show on Amazon Prime that I started getting into. Man, I'd really rather be sitting on the couch with my iPad and just watching this cool show. I don't want to do these things. So if I can bring big mind, equanimous mind, to bear on the dishwasher and the cat box and all the other stuff, and just be with it as it is, and say, oh, this is what I'm doing right now. Yes, washing dishes, or loading dishwasher, unloading dishwasher, scooping cat box, sweeping floor. That I'll be much happier and much more at peace with life in general if I can do that, rather than thinking, oh, I really hate this, I don't want to be doing this, and slamming things around just so I can get done with this. I just want to be done and I want to get to the couch. That if I can learn how to do that with the small stuff, then that's going to help me handle the big stuff, right? If I can bring big mind to something as mundane as washing dishes, will that help me? Will I be practicing to then bring big mind to something more serious? An injury, sickness in my family. I've had to do this these last couple of weeks. My mom was very seriously ill and in the hospital, and is still in the hospital right now, and went in 2 weeks ago with heart failure, kidney failure, all sorts of stuff. And so I've had to really bring this equanimous mind to bear on, the fact that my mother might pass away. She's out of the woods now, but, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, it was really touch and go. And I was very, very much had to bring these concepts to bear and actually try to use them to whatever degree I could. Certainly was more worried about that than I was about getting to the couch. But, to what degree does knowing how to not sweat the small stuff, to use the, some self-help book from years ago, not sweating the small stuff, how does that help me not sweat the big stuff too? Or at least handle the big stuff with more grace and ease than I do. So, all of that leads up to, I've whittled it down to about 4 things that I think are kind of interesting. And for me, the best way to remember something and actually apply it is if it's really easy to remember. So a mnemonic device, some sort of imagery, a catchphrase, or something that when I'm in the moment of, oh, I don't want to wash the dishes. Oh, wait a minute. Something that can pop into my head in that moment. Oh, okay, great. Now I need to shift gears, right? So again, just practicing to practice the practice, right? So that's, I said Zazen to practice, but now I've got to practice the practice when I'm needing to wash the dishes and I don't want to. That's when I actually have to practice the practice, right? So I'll give you these 4 things, and hopefully they make sense to you. And then again, I'd like to open up discussion to hear what everybody else has in their toolkit. So these are my 4 major tools in my toolkit. The first one I call Mindfulness of the Miraculous Mundane. Mindfulness of the Miraculous Mundane. And for me, it's the mnemonic device is the alliteration there, the 3 M's. Remember the 3 M's, 3 M's. And not the tape 3M, but the 3 M's. Mindfulness of the Miraculous Mundane. Which, of course, as we saw in the Gateless Barrier and the Sinsen Ming, and what we hear all around us in all of our Zen practice and every Dharma talk ever given and every Dharma book ever written, seeing things as they really are, particularly the things that we tend to take for granted and overlook. So this one is a little bit different from the other 3 in that this one is actually more applicable to the quiet moments. There's actually another Zen story that I really enjoy that kind of illustrates this. This is a story from, it's actually a koan, another koan, from The Hidden Lamp, which is a collection of koans that was published fairly recently, compiled by Florence Kaplow and Susan Moon, that are all koans that feature women. And of course, Florence and Susan are women themselves. And the commentaries to the koans are all done by female teachers, priests, and whatnot. From, I think even Chosen Bays from our own Great Vow here has a couple of commentaries in that book. So I'll just read you the koan because I think it's kind of a cute story that illustrates this mindfulness of the miraculous mundane. Magu Nongkwan and another monk were on pilgrimage. Along the way, they met a woman who had a tea shop. The woman prepared a pot of tea and brought 3 cups. She said to them, "O monks, let those of you with miraculous powers drink tea." The 3 monks looked at each other and couldn't say a word. The woman said, "Watch this decrepit old woman show her miraculous powers." She picked up the cups, poured the tea, and walked out. And I love that story because the visual on that is just, I'd love somebody to actually make a movie, like a little short film of that, because it would be really entertaining. And I can just picture these monks, like very, esteemed, probably a little bit of pride in their practice and how far along in their practice they were. And this, humble little owner of a tea shop says, "Show me your miraculous powers." And all they can do is think about it in these grandiose transcendental terms of, like if you read some of the early suttas, the early Buddhist texts that are used in the Theravadan tradition, they outline miraculous powers as like, being able to walk through walls, and you can dive into the earth and come back out, and you can float up into the air. And so I can picture these monks looking at each other like, can you float? I can't float. Can you go down? Can you walk through that wall? Because I can't do it. And they were mistaking this miraculous power for something transcendental and outside of their everyday life. So the old woman was actually more enlightened than they were, because she realized that just the act of pouring tea is in and of itself a miraculous thing, like the miracle. Like, think about this collection of atoms called a human being with this arm, and this collection of atoms called a cup that, wow, this cup is made out of earth, and there's a pot full of earth and water, and we're pouring this earth and water into this pot of earth. How amazing that is, And so this mindfulness of the miracles of just the mundane things that we take for granted. This is something I know Thich Nhat Hanh emphasizes a lot in his teachings as well. That just a leaf falling from a tree is miraculous. If you really think about what is the leaf and what is the tree and what is the ground that the leaf falls on, and how everything is contained in that. The sunshine and the earth and rainfall, and the leaf is falling, it's going to become compost that's going to go back and nourish the tree, and just all these amazing things that, how many trees do we walk by or drive by every day? And do we really think about that? Do we really look at the tree and say, what an amazing thing? So trying to have that mindfulness of everyday mundanities then helps us to not take them for granted, and to really say, oh wow, I'm drinking tea. How wonderful! Instead of just, I got to get my caffeine fix and get on to what else I want to be doing. So I really enjoy that one. So mindfulness of the miraculous mundane is my first one. And sometimes I'm up for zazen about 5:30 in the morning. I do my little chores, and then I'll sit. And sometimes I'm too tired to really just shikantaza, like I'm just going to go and fall right off the bench and fall asleep. So I'll sometimes do that with I have a little cup of coffee, and coffee mug. It's made from clay. Clay is made from earth. Wow, I wonder where was this earth pulled from and turned into clay and then fired into a mug. And the coffee, it's water, and it's coffee beans, and the water was once rainfall, or it was a lake. It was vapor evaporating into the air, and the coffee beans grew on a tree, and the tree was taking moisture from the rain and sunshine, and the earth taking nutrients up from the earth. Like, how amazing that is. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how alert I am. But so that's one, mindfulness of the miraculous mundane. Number 2, I call go straight by winding along. And this one is particularly helpful to me when I encounter difficulties or when I encounter obstacles, even if it's something as minor as I'm trying to make coffee and we're out of coffee. Now what do I do, right? And there's actually a little story I want to relate from this book by Shundo Aoyama, the book called Zen Seeds. Shundo Aoyama, there she is. She looks like a very, very wonderful person to spend some time with. Yeah, very happy. She's a Soto Zen priest in Japan. And this is actually a very wonderful compilation, Zen Seeds, 60 Essential Buddhist Teachings on Effort, Gratitude, and Happiness by Shundo Aoyama. I can put that in the chat if you want. But I sometimes will read this before I do my sit just to kind of get myself into that zone. But there's a wonderful story in here in one of the essays where I got this go straight by winding along. Zen master Genshu Watanabe, in his last years, called to his bedside a monk who had recently become a disciple. The master asked, "How can one go straight on a steep mountain road of 99 curbs?" When the young disciple replied, "I don't know," he was told, "Walk straight by winding along." Walk straight by winding along. Go straight by winding along. And this is very helpful for me to call to mind in those difficult moments because you think about when you've got some kind of I'm on a mission, I've got a goal, I've got to get to the goal, like we all have, whether it's work related or family related or just I have a goal of washing the dishes, right? We always want to get there straight away. Like, there's the goal. I want to get there as quickly and easily as possible. I want to take the highway at top speed and get to where I'm going. But how many times do we encounter some kind of obstacle, something that pulls us away from that in the moment, right? So in my household, I really have to finish the chores in the kitchen. And then my daughter turns 4 next week. So here comes Anjali, like, "Daddy, you want to play with me?" Or something like that, right? Or something's terribly, terribly wrong. One of her dolls, like she can't get the dress back on the doll. This is a major, major emergency, right? So if I really want to get to the goal as straight and as quickly as possible, and then I've got this obstacle, well, how do I handle the obstacle? How do I view the obstacle in terms of my end goal? And I love Zen Master Watanabe's analogy there because you think about climbing a mountain as a metaphor for getting to your goal. It's like, well, yeah, there's the summit. Boy, I would really like to get to that summit as quickly as possible. Like climbing Mount Everest or something, right? If you could just go boop, 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 and walk straight up the side of the mountain, that would be great, right? To get there in 20 minutes would be awesome, But that's not how it really works, right? How do you get to the top of the mountain? Well, you have to wind along, right? You have to, every mountain road from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain either goes like this, zigzags back and forth, or it goes around the mountain and spirals up, right? And so we want to get there by the most straight and direct path possible, but that's not usually how things work. So if I can go straight by winding along, like I'm getting to the goal, but yeah, okay, here's a detour. I got a little left turn, I got to make that. Oh, it looks like I'm backtracking. It looks like I'm going away from my goal. Oh, well, actually, I'm not, right? It's just, this is the road that I have to follow to get to where I want to go, right? So all of the little difficulties in life, and even some of the medium difficulties in life, I really try to view from that angle of, okay, I wanted things to be this way, but now they're like this, so I'm going to go this direction. I'm going to do this little detour, and maybe I have to wind along to get where I'm going, but I'll get there eventually. Or maybe I won't, and the new goal comes along, or a new destination comes along, and okay, I'm going there instead. All right, here we go, So I really love this mental image of going straight by winding along. All right, the third one. I'm trying to get through these fairly quickly. I don't want to run out of time here. I have a mindfulness mantra. This is very easy to understand. So if I get stuck and I can feel a frustration, anxiety, like I really don't want to be doing this thing that I have to do, big one for me is scooping the cat box. Got the litter box, and I'm just shoveling little nuggets out of there, right? And I'll use the mantra, there's no place else I'd rather be and nothing else I'd rather be doing. There's no place else I'd rather be and nothing else I'd rather be doing. There's no place else. And I'll repeat this and repeat this and repeat this and repeat this. And it works, right, in those moments because it'll pull me out of that frustration momentarily and get me to that point of, oh, there's no place else I'd rather be and there's nothing else I'd rather be doing because there is no place else I could be and nothing else I could be doing because right here, I'm here. standing in my freezing cold garage at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm shoveling cat poop, like it's got to be done. This is the time to do it. This is the place to do it. Let's do it, And so I also use this a lot when you're standing in line is a good one, right? Or caught in slow traffic, right? There's no place else I'd rather be and nothing else I'd rather be doing. So it kind of ties along to this going straight by winding along, because sometimes in order to remind myself that I have to wind along to go straight, I have to use this mantra. There's no place else I'd rather be and nothing else I'd rather be doing. And then the last one I call Chameleon or Curmudgeon. Again, the alliteration and the rhyme there helps me to remember it. Chameleon or Curmudgeon. And this is all about, who do I choose to be in this situation? I've got a difficult situation or something I'd rather not be doing, washing dishes, scooping cat poop, whatever, right? Do I choose to be the chameleon and just adapt and shift into this new mode? Okay, now I'm doing this. This is what has to be done. And just adapt to it, and like a chameleon changes its colors in order to blend in with the environment, do I change my attitude colors to blend in with the situation as it is in that moment? Or do I choose to be a curmudgeon and stick to the way I wanted things to be and not let go of those and then be really grumpy, right? Because here's the way I wanted things to be and here's how they really are. And the distance between those two is the amount to which I'm going to suffer if I choose to be the curmudgeon, right? If I hold really fast to, this is how I wanted things to be, but this is how they really are. No, there's going to be that tension. That is the degree to which I suffer. But if I choose to be the chameleon and adapt to that situation, tension goes away, frustration goes away, right? And there's a really, really excellent poem also in the same Zen Seeds book that I just absolutely love. This is by the Japanese poet Michio Amado, called Cleaning Rag. When I came back home on a rainy day, a cleaning rag was waiting for me in the entrance hall. I'm a cleaning rag, it said with a friendly look, though it hadn't wanted to become one. Until quite recently, it had been a shirt. It was as soft as my skin. Maybe in America or somewhere, it had been a cotton flower, smiling in the sun and wind. And so I just love the visual there of this, cotton flower in a cotton field. Oh, I'm a cotton flower. What wonderful sunshine, what wonderful rain. And oh, wait a minute, I'm being picked. Okay, I'm being picked. All right, now I'm a cotton ball. Now I'm being spun into thread. Okay, I'm being spun into thread. And now I'm being woven into a shirt, and now I'm a shirt. Yay, I'm a shirt. Oh, wait a minute, now I'm being turned into a cleaning rag, and I'm being. So if at any point along the way that piece of cotton had decided to be the curmudgeon, like, no, I want to stay a cotton flower. I don't want to be a, piece of thread. Don't weave me or don't spin me into a piece of thread. Don't make me into a shirt. Don't make me into a cleaning rag. If at any point it had resisted, how much worse would its life have been? But instead it adapted. Said, oh, here we go. Now I'm a t-shirt. Okay, now I'm no longer a t-shirt. Now I'm a cleaning rag. All right, here we go. And to be able to just be present in that moment of, now I'm a cleaning rag. Happy to be a cleaning rag. Here we go. And so I like to think of that too. Like, am I a cleaning rag right now, or am I still trying to be a shirt? Again, to what degree am I deciding if I'm going to be able to adapt, or am I going to resist? And sometimes when I feel myself resisting, if I keep that in mind, to say, okay, you're resisting right now. See if you can adapt to the situation as it is, and just focus on that and be that. So, all right. Well, I apologize. That took far longer than I wanted it to. I have a tendency to ramble, as any of my students will tell you. But so I want to open up the discussion to everybody here and see if you have any tools in your toolbox that you would like to share with the group.